Hi everyone, and welcome to Theme Park Academy with Adam Sandy and me, Mark Lofthouse, where we're discussing all things theme park. And this week we've got a brilliant episode for you. We spoke to Dominic Wray from Blackgang Chine, talking about how to create nostalgia and how to market nostalgia in the theme park attraction industry. But before we get to that, let's have a quick check on our Park Pulse news.
So the first story this week is actually one we spoke about last time, and that is the merger of Six Flags and Cedar Fair is complete. So the two companies have combined to create the largest theme park company in the US, and they've kept really the Six Flags name and Cedar Fair's colors for the branding scheme, and are actually moving their headquarters to Charlotte, where Cedar Fair's headquarters have always been. So it'll be really interesting to see how this develops and how it affects the marketplace moving forward.
It is incredibly exciting. I've been following all the branding things as a branding geek. I love it. It's really interesting. So next up, we have the news that Sydney's Luna Park, which ties in really well with what we're talking about today, is historically significant, is up for sale for the first time in 2 decades. It's expected to sell for tens of millions of pounds, and it's had a real reinvigoration lately to make it into this sort of immersive experience hub. So it's going to be really interesting to see who takes that and how they kind of run with that, or will they go back to it being an amusement park. It's going to be really exciting for us to look at.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually got to visit the park for the first time this year, and it was a really enjoyable visit. And as we're talking about nostalgia with Dominic today, I think it's a perfect tie-in because that park is such a blend of really historical actually buildings that are on the historic register in Australia that can't be changed. They really kept that aesthetic, but then carried it through the new areas there. So I love visiting, and I'm really curious to see what happens with the property. The London resort is officially not going to happen. I think there have been signs for a while that this development, which was kind of rumored to be the next big thing when it came to UK theme parks, unfortunately never materialized. The good side, though, of some news in that area is Puy de Fou, I'm not a French speaker, so hopefully you're pronouncing that correctly, is eyeing opening a new property in the UK. And they're actually very different from a lot of traditional theme park, amusement park operators, because it's really more a collection of live shows and a live experience for guests as opposed to hard rides. And I think where they've opened it in France and other places, they've really created very unique experiences that are also very bespoke to those areas. So I'm very curious with the UK's history and good sense of history, how they turn that into an attraction in your country, Mark.
Yeah, I am incredibly excited by it. I think anybody who knows me knows that I love immersive theatre. I love theatre in general, and I love theme park, and it's kind of a perfect storm of all of those things. So I'm incredibly excited for it. And I think, like you've mentioned, Adam, the fact that it's based on history, it's based on folklore, it's kind of based on nostalgia, fits in perfectly what we're talking about today. I think it's going to be really key for it to work in the UK. I think it'll be fantastic. It's incredibly exciting. We've got a fantastic couple of years ahead of ourselves in the UK.
For sure, for sure. Well, without further ado, let's move on to our interview with Dominic.
So on this episode, we are joined by a very special guest, and he's got a very recognisable face, especially within the UK theme park industry. So we'd like to welcome Dom on the channel today. Now, Dom is the Managing Director of Blackgang Chine of Vectis Ventures. So Dom, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Dom. I am the Managing Director, as Mark said, for Vectis Ventures, which owns Blackgang Chine and a number of other business opportunities as well. I've been in the industry now for about 9.5 years. Always worked at Blackgang Chine. I've got a background in banking and moved into the theme park industry, as I said, about 9 years ago, and absolutely loved it. Can't get enough.
I've got to ask you on that one. What made you go from banking to theme parks? Because they are quite kind of different beasts, aren't they?
Basically, our HR director, who I work with at the moment, was one of my clients, and she used to come in and see me on a regular basis. And I was talking to her about her job, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool. You get to work with roller coasters and cowboys and animatronic dinosaurs." And I thought this is way more fun and exciting than dealing with banking and boring things that go alongside that. And I thought, God, what an opportunity where she must work. And then one day a job came up for managing Blackgang Chine. And in my naivety, I thought, well, if I can manage a bank, I'm sure I can manage a theme park. Can't be that difficult. A lot of hard lessons along the way. And a number of years later, I've worked my way up the ladder within the business. And yeah, absolutely love the industry. It's fantastic.
Brilliant. I think it's, Adam, you and I kind of spoke about this on the first episode. We love to hear how people got into it because every single person is different. It's very rare to find somebody who just started working in the industry and carried on working in it. It's nice to kind of see people who've come from different backgrounds working in the industry.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And I think for mine, I'm curious, what made you want to stay? You know, obviously your day-to-day changed a lot, but what's kind of kept you in the industry after you jumped over from banking?
I think it's the variety. The fact that no day is ever the same. I love the fact that you're engaging with customers and giving them experiences. You really are. You have an opportunity to create memories for people, and that really sits really well with me. It's just the fact that I get to go to work every day, see people having fun, work in quite a fun environment. It's a bit weird being sat at my desk hearing people screaming as they're swinging past on our gyro swings right outside the office, shouting that they want to get off. But yeah, that's become normality to me now. But I love the fact that we can have an idea in the office and we can bring that to life, and you get to see customers experiencing that on the end, which is something that you didn't really get to do in a bank at all.
So the first question that we're gonna go on to, Dom, is can you give us a little bit of a brief history and an overview of Blackgang Chine specifically? Because obviously today we're talking about heritage and about how nostalgia plays a key part. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of Blackgang Chine?
Yeah, certainly. So Blackgang Chine opened in 1843. We are 181 years old this year. It's been in the de Bell family since that period of time. So it is passed down through each of the de Bell generations, and Alec de Bell is the current owner of the business. Started off all those years ago when a whale skeleton washed up on Blackgang Chine beach. And Mr. de Bell at the time sort of saw this as an opportunity to create a bit of a piece of interesting history, not something that people of that period had sort of seen before. So he took the whale skeleton, stripped the whale, should I say, stripped the whale of all of the blubber and fat to reveal the skeleton, and then he put the skeleton on show. And at this sort of point in time in history, it was the first sort of thing that someone could come and see of that scale and size. It was actually visited by Queen Victoria at one point in time. And we still have the whale skeleton, the original one, in the park today for people to come in and see. And then over time, the park has developed over the years and grown and grown and grown and grown to what it is today. And there's lots of influences across the decades of that. Some areas of our park have sort of nods towards Efteling and other parks in Europe that previous owners have obviously been to visit. So you can sort of see that common thread throughout that up until today. So we have a number of different rides there. We've got a Zamperla gyro swing, which is very popular with people. We've got water slides, we've got a galleon boat coming in soon. But our main USP is the fact that the site is on top of the edge of a cliff that has absolutely breathtaking views across the back of the island. It's probably one of the only places in the world like that. And our other USPs, we have different areas and lands of imagination. So we have a dinosaur area called Area 5, where you can walk with life-size animatronic dinosaurs. We've got an area called Pirate Cove, which is obviously pirate themed. And one of my personal favourites is Cowboy Town, which has this absolutely fantastic rockwork backdrop that when people come to visit, they say, "Oh wow, is that fake? Is that scenery?" No, it's the actual cliff edge itself. So that's really what makes the park so unique, is its location.
And with that, what kind of visitor demographics do you guys see? Are you more families or a little bit of everybody? Like, who do you draw from?
Really a little bit of everyone, to be fair, because the park's been open for so many years now. We have a sort of strong tradition of people coming to the island. Grandparents will bring their children. They will then bring their children. We have this real sort of generational cycle of customers. So we often sort of joke that once you become a customer, you're then a lifetime customer, and that passes down throughout the family to other members of your family as well. But generally speaking, our target demographic is sort of anything from the ages of 4 up to 14, 15.
Okay. And I guess with that, when you think about who you are and how you have sort of a unique IP or unique brand for the park, do you try and sell that nostalgia or history as part of who you are and part of your inherent branding?
Yes. So, we will say we're the UK's oldest theme park. There is an argument for where we sit within the rankings within Europe as well, but we won't get into that. I know we're on limited time today. But yeah, that element of nostalgia is part of how we sell the park. A big part of it is we have a big ethos within the business of looking at attractions that have historically been there or may still be there, and how can we reimagine those and develop them and pivot them for a younger audience. So it might be something that sort of your parents or your grandparents have seen, and we take that concept and then try and respin that, and how would that be reimagined to be suitable for children today?
I know me and Adam have kind of spoke about this before, and the reason that we're doing what we do is because we've got such a nostalgic view, of when we used to go with children to theme parks, and that's kind of a real driving force as to why we're doing it. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're purposefully using the nostalgia to try and connect emotionally with the audiences that you have?
Yeah, for sure. So, I remember going to Blackgang Chine as a child. Very fond memories of that. One of the things that when the job originally came up, I thought, I remember going there as a kid and how fantastic it was. And we really try and connect upon those memories that people have had as children, and then try and expand upon them, and then sort of try and stretch those across the demographic. So Blackgang was very well known originally for its chine, which is unfortunately eroded away, but the illuminations were huge back in the sort of 1970s and 80s, and there are thousands of coloured light bulbs that would lead you all the way down towards the beach. And we've taken a modern twist on that, and we now do lighting events throughout October and other times of the year. So taking that element of, that sensation of feeling, going to Blackgang in the dark and seeing it different and a different experience, and then spinning that to how can we make that more relevant to a modern audience with maybe a bit more of a modern theme as well. So nostalgia is a really big part of the business, definitely.
And with that as well, have you found that when you've been on site and you're doing these kind of light up events as well, have you seen the multi-generational theme running through that, where you've got grandparents and you can overhear them talking about the stories of when they were children going there?
Oh yeah, completely. You see that every day within the park. To be fair, there is one area of the park we have a toadstool with a date painted on it. You quite often meet families that have brought their children every single year, sat them on the toadstool, and it's almost like their rite of passage for that year to get a photograph with them, and you can see them growing along with the date, aging on the toadstool. Quite recently, we've moved one of our sort of more iconic older attractions called Jonah's Whale, and incorporated that within an area for a new ride that we're installing, and that's actually now become the queue line experience. Recently we were out there looking at where the ride's going, and there were lots of people saying, I remember this as a kid, and there's the whale squirt you of water, and we've done sort of subtle cues like using the same soundtrack that would have been in it originally that people remember, because I do think nostalgia is really triggered through your emotions, or it could be from a particular sound or a smell or something like that. So we try and take little elements of that when we're reimagining attractions to sort of bring that to the forefront of people's minds.
That's really cool, and I love sort of your guys' callback on nostalgia and essentially having kind of Instagrammable moments decades before Instagram was a thing.
Yeah.
When you think about the park and whether it's the marketing or what the guests see when they arrive, how do you strike that balance between kind of those callbacks to the past, or really speaking to people's memories, but also providing a modern theme park or modern amusement park experience?
So I think we do a good job of blending modern with history and heritage. So, for example, when you arrive at the site, you're greeted by an absolutely huge smuggler that has been there for a number of years, and it's sort of the first thing that people say when you mention them about Blackgang Chine. So I went there as a child, and you still got the big smuggler and the man with the barrel on his shoulder. Standing right next to that is our gyro swing ride. The two don't look out of place next to each other. So there is quite a blend of old and new, and we try and keep hold of some of the old sort of heritage elements of the park, make sure they're maintained and still celebrated, and then infuse newer elements within that, but try not to pull too far away from that. So an example of this is in our Area 5 area, there's some dinosaurs that were airlifted in by our actual current owner, and that was screened on Blue Peter, the big fiberglass dinosaurs that the kids can climb on. And then we placed a number of large-scale animatronic dinosaurs around those to give a more modern experience to that. To the kids that sort of, recognise Jurassic Park and a lot more modern films, thinking, oh wow, here's a life-size T-Rex, it's roaring at me, my platform's shaking, it looks like it's running towards me. But equally at the end of that experience, mum and dad are able to say to them, oh, these are the fiberglass dinosaurs that I climbed on as a kid, and those children can enjoy that as well. So we try our best to infuse the two without sort of forgetting about the heritage that has gone before as well.
That's brilliant. I think it's, for me, I think it's quite an important factor, isn't it, that we, as kind of designers or people who are working in the industry, it all comes back to a certain point that we try to reference nostalgia. And I think even the newest park should kind of have nods to that as well. And it's kind of a strong thing that I believe in as well. So how do you feel about kind of a brand new park being built? Do you think there is quite an important aspect of them to think about adding in nostalgia ties to kind of reminisce people with things that they've been through in the past?
Yeah, completely. I think if someone gave us a blank bit of paper today and said, okay, start from scratch, guys, off you go, we would be looking at thinking about, okay, what could we put in there that would trigger that emotion and those sensations of people's memories. You can see that across parks all around the world, whether that's sort of films, Back to the Future, or sort of things that are classed as old school. Now I think there's always reference points that you can use to create that sense of, I remember that experience when I was a child, and that then enables is reimagined. When you look at the Velociraptor coaster, that makes me think of watching Jurassic Park as a kid, and the scene in the kitchens when they're all running through there. So I think there's lots of ways that new and modern attractions and parks can still have that element of that nostalgic feel to it, for sure.
And what about food? I know there's some properties like if you go to Coney Island, a Nathan's hot dog is sort of a must. Or if you go to Kennywood, they have the potato patch. Do you guys have some specific food options that are, again, whether they're nostalgic or just sort of classic amusement park, that are part of your brand identity?
Yeah, so for sure we have a particular outlet called Chock-a-Block that sells hot donuts. And the park is sort of well known for those donuts. As anyone that's visited, it's more than likely they've purchased them. We sell a absolutely ludicrous amount of freshly cooked donuts each year, and you sort of have to walk past this outlet to transition from one side of the park to the other. Especially on a hot summer's day, you get that smell of the freshly cooked donuts as you're walking past. And I must admit, even when I'm somewhere else, if I smell that, it reminds me of being at work. I do have to admit, I have to avoid it because they do taste too good. And they're not great if you drink too many bags of them. Yeah.
That's definitely dangerous to have on property nearby. I would not be able to control myself.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. You do have to restrict yourself, definitely.
I think, like you just said, the smell as well. As soon as you smell that, it transports me back, and those type of smells are so key, and scent is such a huge part of connecting emotions together as well. And I think, I don't know how you go a day without just spending all day there. I know I would.
Yeah, I'm sure if you ask the team, they would say I'm more interested in ice cream than I am donuts. So I'm guilty of that.
So a large percentage of visitors, obviously nowadays, are kind of millennials who've had children. How do you find marketing nostalgia to them? And is that something that the marketing team at Blackgang does focus on, specifically in marketing nostalgia?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we recently had a visit from Zoella, who's quite a big YouTuber, who's in that millennial age range. And, she really wanted to come to the park because she'd visited as a child. She now has children and really wanted to show her children those experiences that she had, and for them to experience that. And I do think that's definitely something that we lean into with our marketing at certain points of the year. We are probably the best place for a throwback Thursday, because we can keep throwing it back to Thursdays from a number of years ago. And that does create that generational sensation of nostalgia amongst people. But I do think certainly when you're looking at millennials, a lot of them will be having children now, and it's very much about helping market towards in that sense of recreating those memories that they had with children with your kids. As a father myself, there's often things that I take my son Ethan to go and do, and he's thinking, "Oh, why are we going to go and do this, Dad?" And I think, well, I want to share that experience I had all those years ago with you. He may not find it as fun as I did at the time, but that's part of what you do as a parent, isn't it?
Do you find as well on the kind of back of the marketing side? But I know recently you just had was it Joe Suggs there as well, and another kind of YouTuber that you've had there. Yeah. Do you get quite a lot of kind of requests from, especially people of that YouTube generation, that do you want to bring their children nowadays?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was something that Joe outreached to us about coming to visit, and that year, like I say, it was pretty much a case of wanting to relive their childhood with their kids at that point in time. So yeah, we do kind of keep an eye out for people that have visited us before, or may now have children, and we will often outreach to those types of influence to say, hey, why don't you come back, bring your kids, experience this that you did as a child. I mean, the marketing team did a fantastic job with Zoella and Joe. Sort of that was a period of time of sort of a year or so of contacting them, sending them little gift packages, and making them feel like they were really getting a lot of behind the scenes content before they came down to arrive. So that was sort of the tactic we took with those guys.
Brilliant.
And with that, when you guys think about your overall social message or online branding, how do you we talked about in the park how you're sort of blending that old and new. How are you using nostalgia to sell on social as you speak to your really multi-generational audience?
That's mainly done through imagery, to be fair. That is the biggest driver for us, blending those older images. So, hey, this might be an area of the park before, this is what it looks like now. This is an area that we're putting a new development in. Okay, we're taking this particular bit of the site out, but this is where it's going to go to, or this is what it will look like in the future. So it's mainly through that image of use of imagery to try and inspire people to think, oh, okay, I remember when I did that, or that was a really good experience I had there. So it's very much about us blending the two together. So for example, with a new ride that we put in, the artwork for that very much heavily lent on not only the ride, but the whale that was going in, which was the nostalgic element. And I wanted to make sure that was a real key piece. It wasn't just about the ride, it was about elements of the queue line that people would remember as well. So that's mainly how we try and blend the two together.
With nostalgia as well, I think there's so many sort of eras that are quite iconic and visually represented really well. Would you say there's any specific era that, especially looking at the nostalgia, that is really key for Blackgang? Do you think there's sort of a time that is really prevalent in the history that you kind of push with the marketing side of things as well?
Well, obviously at the moment it's predominantly around the 1980s and 1970s because of those sort of age brackets of parents. What we are very mindful of is not trying to just stick on that age range, and we do try and push that through as the years move on with our marketing to ensure that we're moving with those people that are starting to have children. So we kind of focus on quite a broad generational age range. Obviously, we're really trying to target those people that are at that sweet spot, that are having kids that are in our target demographic. We do also do other events outside of the main opening of the park. So we run some DJ nights throughout the summer as well. We've actually tapped into a bit of nostalgia with those as well. So we've got some sort of old school DJs that were big in IB through in the early 2000s. that now mum and dad remember going to Ibiza to see them. Now they can come see them at Blackgang and enjoy the sunsets that we have to offer there as well. So nostalgia really does play a big part in everything that we do across our brands.
I think I'll have to come visit if you guys are having early 2000 DJs.
For sure.
My kids will be like, I know that song. I'm like, yeah, I play it a lot. So
yeah. You can put some requests.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess, with that, when you think of where the park goes next, how do you balance sort of whether it's an attraction or a show, sort of that same idea? How do you take the past and do you actively think about it when you're thinking about investments for the future, about that sort of tie back from a marketing or branding perspective?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the sort of key overriding narrative of the park is that there's different areas and lands of imagination, as I've said. So you've kind of got those key core themes that we'll always be going back to, which I think is what the park's very well known for. And I think it's really about, when we're looking forwards, how can we expand upon those themes and how can we reimagine them? Obviously there are lots of new ideas that come into the park as well. It's not just a question of recycling what we've got before, but as I said, it's really about that look back at what we have got, what are people really enjoying, what's maybe becoming a bit tired and worn, and how can we reimagine that and redevelop it. 9 times out of 10, we're looking at how can we expand that concept further. So, for example, we've got an area of the park at the moment that has a fairy castle in it. So that's coming towards the end of its natural life cycle. And that's an area we're naturally looking at, okay, how could we expand that? And it won't be a question of just putting the same castle back in again. It would be a question of, okay, how can we take that concept of a castle in that area and how can we develop far more interactive and immersive play within that concept, whilst giving little nods back to the original concept that's there at the moment.
I think it's incredibly exciting to hear about the new things that you're working on. Is there anything that you can tell any of our listeners or people watching now of something that you're working on at the moment, or a little bit of insider information about things and how it's progressing at the park?
I mean, the main thing that we're working on at the moment is the delivery of the Jolly Robin, which is a galleon boat ride, 42-seater, that we are bringing back into the park. And that will be our sort of flagship ride for this summer. That's due to be delivered in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I said all the queue lines are ready to go. And as I said, that's a blend of everything being pulled together. We do within the park have probably one of the most iconic pieces of nostalgia, which is the Weather Wizard, which is a very, very, very well-loved walkthrough attraction from a number of years ago within the park, of a wizard that you meet and he talks you through the different weathers and you experience the different seasons. And that is probably our biggest bit of nostalgia that our customers always say to us, when are you going to bring back the Weather Wizard? And it's probably an example of in-house IP that we've built that needs to be handled very, very carefully. And there will be an element of pressure of delivering that one, especially bright. So we want to make sure that we've got the perfect attraction. It's the right time for him to come back into the park.
Brilliant. And you just mentioned obviously about having your own IP. What do you think the kind of balancing act is between the nostalgia pieces and it becoming its own IP, that a lot of people that go into the park will be so protective over that as well? And what kind of process do you go through to make sure that it works for you as a business, but also actually you've got a really kind of strong proposition for the big fans of the park to make sure it's what they kind of envisaged?
Yeah, so we're very aware of what the fan favourite elements of the park are, and there's been a number of elements that have come in and out over the years. Some sort of small bits, some big bits. What we try and do is make sure that there's a subtle nod to certain elements of attractions that have maybe been there before but aren't there at the moment, and we try to tread very carefully around making sure there's always elements of those attractions still within the site whilst reimagining them. But sometimes it can be a balancing act. We're very, very lucky to have people that are so passionate about the business and the heritage and the nostalgia of the site, and we do have to be respectful of that at the same time, whilst trying to reimagine things for a newer and different audience, because obviously kids grow up very fast and everyone's viewpoint on what's in fashion and in trend changes very quickly. So it is a delicate balancing act.
Oh, that's awesome. And I do love that you guys have dug so much into your past to create your future. I think that's a really, it is unique to our industry compared to some others. So it's, but I just love hearing how you do that in practice. Are we ready for Fast Pass?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Mark, start us off.
Okay, so we're going to ask you a series of 3 questions now, and we want you to answer honestly about the theme park industry. So the first question that we've got is, what is your favorite amusement or theme park?
My favorite theme park is Phantasialand. Absolutely loved it when I went there. I was very lucky to be able to go on a Balpa trip a number of years ago. And I was just completely blown away by the theming in the park, how immersive it was. And literally the moment you stepped through the front gate, it just felt like you were in a completely different world, and continually walking through different worlds all the way throughout the whole park. So yeah, that's 100% my favorite park in the world.
And it is amazing how they cram so much into a small footprint in that park too, because you look at all the attractions they have and you think it must be massive like a US theme park, but it's not. It's like on this little plot of land in Germany. So I love that. What is your favorite attraction?
That's also at Phantasialand. And I would say it is the doubling down, I would say it's the Fly roller coaster there, flying coaster. I absolutely loved that the first time I rode it. My favorite coaster I've ever been on. And I remember coming off of it, and it gave me that sensation of being a kid watching Superman, going to sleep dreaming of being able to fly. And yeah, riding that ride just brought that emotion and those memories back to me. So it's definitely that, for sure.
So a bit of personal nostalgia on that one, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Great choice. And the final question that we've got for you is, what do you think a key trend happening, or what can you see happening in the next 5 years in the theme park attraction industry?
I can see more of a focus on even further immersive experiences. I think when people visit theme parks, they want to sort of escape, all the problems outside, all the day-to-day monotony that might be going on in their lives. And they're really looking for, in my opinion, increased immersion into whatever that experience may be. You see some fantastic examples of this all the way across the world, where you'll go into a ride and now the queue line and the queuing experience is equally as immersive and sometimes more captivating than the actual ride itself. And I think that complete immersion is a big focus moving forwards.
Yeah, I think Adam, we've spoke about this as well, haven't we? We totally agree. I think we both said the same. I think it's going to be a strong. I think people are expecting more now, and it's that kind of, without referencing it again, but it's that kind of Willy Wonka scenario that actually we've got more scrutiny in our immersive experiences now, and in essence, that obviously was terrible what happened, but for us, it pushes the boundaries for us, makes us work harder. And I genuinely think we're going to see some absolutely incredible immersive experiences. So I'm 100% behind you on that one, Dom.
I definitely agreed. And thanks so much for joining us today, Dominic. This was fantastic. I loved hearing about how you guys are approaching family time and branding that nostalgia in such a different way than some other players in the industry.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great to talk to you guys. I've enjoyed it.